There we go. And welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind. I'm your host, WIZE. My next guest, I'm excited. Hold on. Let's get this back up there. All right. My next guest has over nearly 40 years in commercial real estate. Welcome to the show, Dr. Eric Holsapple.
Okay, thanks for having me on. Excited to be here.
The pleasure's all mine. Let's get this going. All right. Can you share that pivotal moment that led you to merge mindfulness with your successful career in commercial real estate?
Yeah, I was my very early 30s when it started. I was a CEO in my 20s of a subsidiary of an Australian group, North American group. I was flying from Los Angeles to Denver to Princeton, New Jersey. I got a transfer to Boston, and I was really successful in all the outward parts of business and really good at real estate. But I was overweight. I was single. I was drinking too much. Uh, I was miserable, dying on the inside. And I remember I hadn't been to, I'm an athlete. I hadn't been to the gym in years. It was just, I couldn't get my tie done. I couldn't get my pant buckled. And I remember I got an apartment in Boston and I said, I'm going to go get a scale. I stepped on that scale and I go, oh, man, you got to make some changes or you're not going to be around very long. You got to do something. So I made some changes. I decided to leave that job. I started running again. I lost some weight and I stumbled on yoga. I'm not sure why it was. I didn't know anybody that did yoga. I don't, and this goes back, gosh, 90, 1989, 1990. But I stumbled on it just by a DVD. I didn't know whether there's a yoga studio or anything. And it just immediately took for me. And I started doing a home yoga practice by myself. And then a couple years after that, my older brother is a poet. He was estranged from my dad. My dad was a football coach, and football and poetry just didn't seem to mix very well in my house. My dad was kind of authoritarian. You'll play. My brother didn't want to play. Anyway, my brother just left home and didn't come back for a long time or, didn't come around much. And I watched my brother take up meditation and just come back to the family. And then he opened up to my dad, and my dad didn't change. He was in his 70s. And he opened up, my dad opened up, and it was just like I got my family back because when someone's, when it's estranged like that, it's a strain on everybody in the family. And it was the first time in my life I'd seen one person change, and it changed the whole world. And he said, do you want to try it? I said, yeah, it seemed pretty powerful. I'll try that. And I'd been working on some breathing with yoga but never meditation. So I tried it and I had immediate results. But for years, I was a closet meditator. I didn't come out. I did my practice at home. I talked to my brother some about it. I did my yoga. I didn't really talk a lot about that. I just did that for years and years, just on my own. And I didn't know anybody else that was doing those things. So, but then after a while, I started my own company and started working on things. And one by one, people would start asking me what I was doing. And I also changed. I came someone that was just very hard. I'm still hard driving, but I didn't used to have a minute for people. I would just go, I would ask you something if I needed something from you, basically, and I would do the niceties that I had to do in that realm. And people started noticing a change in me and asking me, and I'd say, yeah, try this, look at this. And then we started what's called a seed group at our company. We just had a monthly meeting where we'd be reading a book and sharing and getting to know each other, let them do centering. We didn't call it meditation. Before I knew it, the room was full. And we did mindful-based stress reduction, an 8-week program for everybody to do it. And then the management committee got together and changed and I helped facilitate, but I didn't do it, changed the vision statement to mindfully creating community. And it was just a game changer. Everybody kind of had permission to start a meeting with a mindfulness meditation. To everybody was on nonprofit boards doing things in the community for those things. And so that's kind of how it got started. And then from there, I started a nonprofit that I offer that training to other professionals. And I wrote a book, Profit with Presence, the 12 Pillars of Mindful Leadership.
So is this what inspired you to create Living in the Gap?
Absolutely.
And how does it contribute to mindful leadership in the business world?
Yeah, we have a 9-month program that we take professionals through. We start pretty slow with it. Most people haven't had any experience with it. We don't force yoga, but we introduce yoga and the principles of yoga, because some people already have a really good routine at the gym or something else. So we say, don't stop doing something positive, but how can you make that more mindful? Do a little yoga and learn how yoga is the science of consciousness, how to place your attention in your body. And we teach things like deep listening, how to listen to somebody, how to be present. We really focus on focus. In the business world, we say, we really want to be able to focus on one thing and when we're in a meeting, we want to focus on that meeting. We don't want our iPads open and, phones and all that kind of stuff going. And then we say at the end of the day, we want you to shut that down and change that focus to home and be really present at home, so that the next day when you come back into work, you're completed. You may have to do something at home. We all have things that come up.
Mm.
But basically, we paid attention to that, and we've listened to our home people, and we've our families and our friends, and we've done what we need to do there. So when we're back to work again, we can focus on that, because we just come to the society of being so distracted. We're never really anywhere. We're everywhere all the time. All the screens are open. Everything's flipping. We're everywhere, man. We're on the news feed. We're eating. We got Facebook going. We're not, but we're everywhere and nowhere. So it's really, starting to notice that, starting to notice presence and awareness. The value of relationships, is just so key. Harvard just completed a study, a 70-year-long study. I think they started with 700 participants. They didn't end with that many, but they found the number one ingredient in long-term happiness was long-lasting relationships. That's just so important. And so many people that come through my program, they start out going, I'm going to make this and do this and have this career, and you can do all that, but most of them come away with just wow, I was really with somebody. I was really with a person. I can really hear somebody now, and it's nice to be listened to. So.
As a real estate CEO and developer, how do you navigate the balance between business demands and maintaining a mindful lifestyle?
Prioritization. I play a game called baseball. Prioritization of baseball. I say, okay, first base or home plate, I'm sorry. That's my mindset. Before I leave the house, I do my personal work. For me, that's meditation, a little yoga, some gratitude, affirmation, journaling. I love to read. I read at least like 10 pages from an inspirational book, something that is training my mind that, how I want to be. Because if I can set my mind in the right direction, that's what I'm going to see more of and find more of, and I'll respond better during the day than if I just get hit cold. Because at pitcher is life. And I don't know what pitch I'm going to get. I don't know if it's going to be coronavirus. I don't know if it's going to be a recession. I don't know if it's going to be winning the lottery. I don't know what pitch I'm going to get, but I know that my mindset is what's going to impact how I do, no matter what that pitch is. So I want to have the right mindset. First base for me, and it wasn't this way in my 20s, but for me is family and friends. That's my priority. I need to touch that base every day. What's going on with that? It's my family and friends have what they need, because that's why I work, to promote, support my family. So, and as I said a little earlier, if my family has what they need, then when I get to work, which is second base for me, then I can really focus at work, and I can move the world in a few hours a day if I'm really focused. And also, I can have the greatest job in the world. And if my family is a mess, that job is not going to matter much to me. It's not going to be my top priority. If when I go home, I don't have a safe environment with this love and relationship and fulfillment. So a big thing is to get my priorities straight. It's family and friends and then work. And when I go to work, being at work and getting that done and doing that. And then third base for me is community service. And I have to have my family set and I have to have my job done. And then I believe there's time for community service, but I think in priority wise, I don't do much good to those organizations. If my family's a mess, or if I haven't done my job, or I lose my job, or those kind of things. So I touch all those bases and I just say, if I can do all that, that's a home run. If I can do all those things and serve all those things, then I've got a great system of it. But it starts in the morning with my mindset.
Okay. Can you let's start out with how do you start off your morning? What is it that you do in the morning? Like, what's the first thing you do when you get up in the morning?
Oh, it's pretty invigorating. I have a cup of coffee. Actually, I start with a glass of water first, then I have a cup of coffee and I read. I am an early riser and I love to read. So that's my first. Well, actually, that's not true. I journal first and then I read.
Okay.
I journal. I put some gratitudes in. I record dreams. I do some affirmations and then anything to get my mind doing. And then I read.
So you
usually
take,
read. I read
okay,
for a couple cups of coffee usually, and then I move on.
So you take the beginning of your day is you. It's time for you.
Totally. It's getting up early when I don't have a lot of distractions, when my kids are small, whatnot. Sometimes you get interrupted, and I say, well, don't make that part of the meditation. You don't want to scream at your kids, No, have them sit on your lap. Hey, I'm reading this. Grab something to read. Breathe with them. If you're meditating, just do it with them. If it's yoga, do it with them. Play it because I usually get up early enough so it's not every day they're up, but if they're up, make that part of it because that's why I have a routine, so support my life. It's not like the routine is like the thing, but the routine is pretty important because we are our habits. We become, or we just are our habits. And if I don't have habits that are conducive to who I want to be, then I'm not going to be who I want to be.
Okay. In your workshops, what key strategies do you offer to CEOs and professionals to operate mindfully and improve their bottom line?
Well, I'll highlight a couple things. One is we're talking about presence, to be really there. One thing for CEOs I say is get straight with yourself of what can only you do, because you need to clean up your schedule a little bit. You need to be available for people. You need to have a little space. So you want to get straight with what are the key things, hiring the executive team, setting strategy, running board meetings, whatever that is. You want to get really straight with what you can only you do so that you can offload a few things so that you have a little space. Because if you're too busy, it's hard to have space and it's hard to be accessible, that people may have valuable things to say to you. The other is listening, to really start paying attention to people. Times we say, take a walk around the office in the morning before you get started. Just take a little walk, stroll around, check in on people, those kind of things, because the tendency is we get so busy and so driven, we just, laptop up, gone, cone of silence down, just falls and meetings and whatnot. And then the end of the day, you're out again. Well, in the old days, Search of Excellence was a great book, was, manage my walking around. It's just got to have some of that, of being present and aware. And you do have to slow down a little bit to do that. You have to slow down to go fast, we say, those kind of things. What else we do is we show them prioritization like that and really give people permission to prioritize their families. So often in our corporate world, it's like if you have to leave for a family thing or something like that, then it's like, how dare, you're on company time. What are you doing? I have found that if there's a few people who will take advantage of it, most people really appreciate it because they're there to support their family and they're hiding, they're texting and they're doing these different things, but if they know you got their back, then they'll have your back. So they got to be judicious with it, but letting people know that it's the prioritize of your family is okay. Not emailing at home at night much. I mean, you might have to sometimes, but trying to compartmentalize work at work. And if you got to do it, try to set the time so that you're not constantly dragged back to the screen and back to the click and back to those things all the time. Because the one thing, I mean, as I said, and I'll say it, and it's a constant theme, but I'll say it again. If you really want to focus at work, you got to have a steady home life. And the way to have a steady home life is to be there when you're there, to be present with people so they know they have you when you're there. And if I'm constantly drawn back into my workday when I'm supposed to be home having dinner, but the kids doing whatever that is, if I can't compartmentalize, and that's not saying I never have a call, I never have an email, those things happen. But as a general rule, can I try to really slow down on the homework and work at work? And if you have a home office, there's a different thing. Then you have to compartmentalize the time somehow. But to really start doing what you're doing while you're doing it, and then put it aside and go do the next thing. So the other thing I'd say is just so many people, we start people really small, 2 minutes a day of meditation. I just find that people start with 10, 20 minutes. So many of them get intimidated. I mean, it's pretty busy up there when we start. And if you try to do too much, it can be counterproductive. So that 2 minutes for a while, the mind slows down a little bit. I want more. I find some space, some gaps in it. And I go, oh, this is really, the other thing is you start being more efficient. You stop wasting so much time and you have more time. We try to make it not just another thing to do, but really, something that's a real efficiency gain for you.
Yeah.
There's a few things.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely because we're like that's something that we're very limited in this time. So when you're able to manage it and set your priorities and manage your time, then that's something I think would help benefit these business owners and these professionals.
And if you don't have 2 minutes, you better lighten up your schedule. Right?
Yeah.
So another reason we do it. It's hard to, it's
no, it's absolutely right. Because when I first started podcasting, I just kind of almost burnt myself out because I was just recording almost 4 or 5 episodes a day, just really something crazy. And I started realizing, like, man, I can't continue to do this because I'm gonna burn myself out. So I set myself a schedule. Now I record a show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday live, and then the rest of the days are either for me to do be a guest on other podcasts or promote whatever episodes that I have going on that week. So it took me really setting a schedule for me to really, because I also work a 9 to 5. I do my 9 to 5 and then I come home and I start editing my podcast or start working on my podcast. So you have to really find that time for yourself and family, because Saturdays and Sundays are my wife's days. Those are the days that me and her go out and spend time together. And
nice.
You have to take those moments and really schedule it the right way and definitely take time for you and your loved ones.
And prioritize. And it sounds like, some days you're prioritizing that and making sure that happens. And other days you're prioritizing your work and making sure that happens. But prioritization is part of clarity, being clear about what I'm up to and that I can't be doing all things for all people at all times. There just ain't enough of Eric to go around, and we can multitask. We can do a bunch, but we can't pay attention to that many things.
Yeah.
And the quality of attention is what brings quality to life. Your ability to be present and have that quality attention. It's what your family wants. It's what your workmates want. It's what makes you happy.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. So you're also a published author. Um, what um, what inspired you to want to write a book? Like, not
Oh
everyone.
yeah. Yeah. Well, what inspired me was I just wasn't very, still not, enamored with the state of the world.
Mm,
And in my experience or my belief, it's not going to be the politicians and the lobbyists that get us out of this global quagmire that we're in. I think in the end, business moves the world. And when it impacts business enough negatively, so far I can't believe how buoyant business is, despite all the gridlock and the divisions and distractions and everything. In South Africa with apartheid, the business community, they came in with international sanctions on the business community. They couldn't make money, and the business community said, enough. You guys get together and figure this out. We need to operate. We're okay. We'll make some compromises. Business wants to move things. It isn't partisan. It wants to move things. I mean, some people make it that way, but I think business is in the business of moving things. That's what it is. And so I wrote a book that I found that many in the mindfulness community say money's dirty, and I say, well, it's a capitalist system. How can you say our basic system, it isn't okay to make money? That's how we run. I don't buy that. It has to be okay too. And a lot of in the business community say, oh, mindfulness, that's woo woo. And I'll say, listen, divided, distracted, inability to make improvement on key things, that's woo woo. Mindfulness is focus. So I wrote a book that said, no, you can bring the two things together. And you don't have to, like I did for years, be a closet meditator. You can be. You can be as secret and as private as you want. But it's something you can use the principles of all day long. And no one will even know. I mean, oh, he's focusing. Okay. How do you know that? He's listening to somebody. Oh, that's woo woo. It's the principles are just so business friendly. And also, I mean, if you can't have happiness and joy at work where you spend most of your time and your best time, most of us that are working during the day, we're tired when we get home. If you
mhm.
can't enjoy that, then you're wasting the best slice of your day, the best slice of your life. So my experience has been that you can make a difference at work, that people thrive on it. Uh, and so I wrote a book that gives you that permission and kind of a recipe book for how you might do it and still make money. Because I think profit's essential. It's essential. It's just not a purpose. Doesn't pop me out of bed in the morning. Doesn't, it's the result of a purpose-driven life, purpose-driven business. It's not the purpose.
Okay. All right. So with everything like you said, with everything that's going on in the world, how is it that because it's been a big shift, especially now with what happened with the pandemic and everyone going to going
Yeah.
remotely and everything. And how did that impact you at that point when in your business as far as going remote and not being able to have contact with people?
Yeah. In hindsight, I wish we had done more because we're a real estate business and we had empty buildings. Every loan we had, every tenant we had, everything got modified, and we were in constant, hands-on mode. And I drew into my mindfulness practice intensely. We did our seed group meeting on Zoom, but in hindsight, I wish we'd done more with that. I think mindfulness is really promotes success in remote work because mindfulness is a very sticky culture and it's virtual. You're more aware of what's going on, and I think that people, once they're in a mindfulness culture, don't like to leave it just for a couple dollars. You'll at least get a conversation before somebody leaves you because it's rare. People like to know that their companies are doing good things. People like to feel like their company is improving the community. and you do things, and we give a couple hours a month if you need for community service, if you want to serve, and different things like that. So I think it can be really good. I mean, some of the things I think it means is, we like office work because it's command and control. We can walk down the hall and, know what people are doing and have a look. And, in home, it doesn't work that way. There's a much bigger trust element of it, and it won't work for everybody. Some people don't work that well unsupervised or on their own. Some people work much better. They don't have the commute, but I think for also, you got to have less reports. You need to make connections with them. You need to be able to connect with people that are remote. So I think, if you had 20 reports in the office, half or a third of that is the most that you could handle with remote work, because you actually have to reach out and stay in touch. You have to be in contact with people to know what's up with them. You can't and the other thing that, you also have to, I think, is regular office functions where people are in and feel part of a group. But the science is evolving on it, of what it is, but it's here to stay. People are insisting on it. The other one of the things, we look back after the pandemic and people aren't coming in as much. And we have a very close-knit office, and we were looking and for a while going, what's wrong? Why don't they come in? I looked at and said, they have such fantastic lives. They're enjoying their families. They're still being productive and they love the company, but they're finding that they can be more with their family now, and they love that. They're spending less time, driving into work and doing this kind of stuff. And I personally, I'm trained so much. I like to go in the office, but, and my kids aren't home anymore, but
Yeah. Yeah. It was, because when I was furloughed from work, my wife was still, she was an essential worker. So it was just me at home. It wasn't, and she just had a big honey to-do list for me. She would go to work and have this big list for me to do stuff. But I really had wanted to start a podcast, and I had made excuses for over a year of why I shouldn't start. Like I had been wanting to do a podcast since 2019, and so when I get furloughed from work in 2020, and the wife just keeps handing me a list, and I'm like, I'm not doing anything else productive with my time. Like, so I really got into podcasting, and a lot of the stuff that I've learned, I'm self-taught,
yeah,
and,
awesome.
I've I've invested in so many different tools and courses
Yeah,
to want to improve in what I'm doing.
awesome.
Yeah, it was
And your studio's at home?
yes.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Great.
Yeah, I learned the difference between mics and what cameras. But it was something that I had time on my hand, and I just felt like this is let me invest in myself and learn about what cameras I should be,
Yeah,
what mic I should be using, what tools are easy for me to use, being someone that wasn't in this realm, wasn't from
yeah,
this. I'm a table games dealer, and here I am talking about coaching and mindfulness and all these other topics that yes, I've learned about from reading books and wanting to improve my life and wanting to develop. So it's funny how things happen.
how'd you come up with the name Stuck in My Mind?
Because for like I said, I was stuck with wanting to make a podcast. It was originally going to be a sports podcast, and I was going to do it with a friend, and it didn't pan out. And then I was like, all right, I want to start a podcast. I was just making up so many excuses. It was just me just saying, "Oh, I'm gonna suck.
No,
People
that's great.
who's gonna want to listen to me? Why would I want to do this?" It was just me battling myself, and I was stuck up in my head, and I was just like, you know what? Stuck in my mind. I like that name. Let me and it stuck. And so when I did the introduction episode, which was like 5 minutes long, it was just stuck in my mind. Was to me
Love
was
it.
the obvious
And it
choice.
looks like it's going pretty well.
I was doing. I'm going. I am. I didn't expect it to be what it is right now. I'm. Like I'm not a celebrity. I'm not. I didn't expect it to do as well as it's doing. That's for
Yeah.
sure. And it's amazing because I'm booked through March with guests.
Well, I know I had something come up. It was a family thing come up. So I looked last night and said, if I couldn't make that, I looked at it and was like, yeah. I said, well, maybe I better make it. This guy's busy.
Yeah, it is. I'm blessed to
Yeah,
have
awesome. Good for you.
to have my. I'm booked through to March, and it's great because honestly, in the last year, it's been amazing because I've implemented so many different things that I've learned. I've learned how to use AI to help things make things easier for me as far as um just a lot of different things. I've also started doing a weekly email. I've started building my email list. There's so many different things I've started doing within the last year, and you can see from my numbers the leap from where December of last year I was probably close to 9,000 downloads total, and as of today, total downloads I'm probably at 25,000.
Yeah, wow.
So
You're doing something right.
yeah, it was just me again taking the tools that I've been learning and applying them
Yeah.
and the networking that I've been making, the networking connections that I've made with people that they see that I'm really dedicated to this. So they're like here that they're like willing to teach me different things that I didn't know. And it's amazing that it's amazing how when people see that you're dedicated to what you're doing, how much they're willing to help you build.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. It's infectious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Contagious. Yeah.
As someone with a PhD in economics, how do you see mindfulness contributing to economic perspectives and decision making?
Well, go back to just like capitalism. I think our system's capitalism. I love it. I'm creative. I'm a developer. I'd like to build things. Got great freedom in it. But what's missing from capitalism is consciousness. I mean, we have to help out others as we can. We have to have compassion. Or else, I mean, it isn't going to work if everybody, a handful of people end up with all the marbles and everybody else is serving tables. It's just not going to work. So I think what's missing from capitalism is more mindfulness, more gratitude, more service work, more, those kind of things where we're more inclusive. I mean, it's a great system. It's flexible, and I don't see it going anywhere, but it could be better. It could be a better system even, and I love capitalism. So part of my mission is to say, as an economist, hey, there's room for improvement here. We could even, with more mindfulness, because we're most of economics is about, and most of our economy and government talk is about making stuff and consuming stuff. Let's get the GDP up. Let's get consumer confidence up. There's nothing wrong with any of that, but it's not a purpose and it doesn't bring happiness.
Mm-mm.
you know so happiness comes first. If you're not happy first, no amount of things are going to make you happy. It might for a little bit of time, but the statistics are irrefutable on it. After you have your basic needs, your basic goods met, you don't get happier, you just get more stuff. So I think there's a lot that economics can learn from mindfulness and from consciousness. And I think it can take a system that's a really good system and make it even better. And the other thing is, like, part of the problem with business is no one's talking to anybody in politics. So politics really hurts business. Mindfulness says, hey, no, stop judging people, start listening to them. Don't just put a label on them and say you know everything about them. You know, how could it be possible that we have two kinds of people in the country? It isn't. Everybody's a snowflake. There's all kinds of things about us that are different than other things. You can't just classify us in one, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 10 categories. So I think mindfulness has a lot to add to the way we live. And my hope is through economics and business that people catch on and say, you know what, let's move things. We can move the world, man. We might have to compromise. We might have to talk to each other. We might not. We all ain't gonna get what we want, but what we have is unbelievable already, and it could even be better. I mean, we just have so much, and we take it for granted. And gratitude helps us with that. Not take it for granted. Appreciate what we have versus always seeing all the time what we don't have.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that like I said, I'm blessed to be able to do this. I am so grateful that I've found my voice, and because I didn't, for many years, all I did was work, 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 work.
Yeah.
And so when I finally started podcasting and started seeing the impact from it, and the people that I'm able to touch from just doing my podcast, it's really giving me a purpose, a drive to really continue to
Awesome.
to make it better. I feel with every episode I'm just improving, and with everything I'm learning and able to apply it to the podcast, and it's opened up so many different opportunities,
Well,
and I'm so grateful for it. I am
right.
so
One of
grateful.
the things I write about in the book is people wonder about motivation. Why can't I get motivated? Why can't I get my team motivated? And I say have you looked at purpose? It sounds like you found a purpose,
Yeah.
that lights you up. And it's so hard to get enthusiastic if we don't align with the purpose of what we're doing. So, and it takes some inner work to find a purpose, because it's not, I mean, the government tries to give us a purpose, schools try to give us a purpose, parents try to give us a purpose. Purpose comes from within. All those things give us a starting point and places to look, but we got to have a purpose, and then we get motivated, and then look out. And I think leadership comes from that. You see people stepping up to lead in areas. If they're driven by it, if they're passionate about it, leadership comes from that. They'll step up and take a leadership position. Yeah, and some people have some different skills than others, but motivation and purpose are a huge part of leadership.
And also, when you're a leader, you know where you lack at. So if you're a great leader, you know that you put the right people in places where you lack that. Like,
And you look for your blind spots.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You find people that compensate for your weaknesses, and you look for blind spots, because we all have those too. And the
mhm,
great leaders, as you say, have spent some time saying, okay, what am I not seeing?
yeah,
What do I don't see? Help me find that, and then I go to work on that, and then it's game on,
yeah.
because I stop sabotaging myself, and I can get alignment. And yeah, absolutely. I'm in agreement with you.
Eric, this has been wonderful. This has been a great conversation. Um, Now it's time where you get the solo screen and you plug away and let people know where exactly they can find your website, the
Sure.
books, everything.
Sure. Livinginthegap.org, livinginthegap spelled out.org is there. There's if you want to send an email, send it in, and have an inquiry. There's free resources there to get started with mindfulness. Any of our workshops is on there. There's I'm sorry, blogs on there. Sorry about that. Videos, a bunch of things. So you can get a copy of the book there, and you can also get the book at Amazon.com. If you really want to get a flavor for, how I feel that you can be more mindful in business, and how business can be more mindful generally and make a bigger difference. The book is a great way to start, either on audio or reading the book. Profit with Presence, the 12 Pillars of Mindful Leadership. Get a copy today. Change your life. It sure changed mine.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Eric, for being a guest. This has been This has been great. This is
Awesome.
I
Thanks for
love these
having me.
conversations. Oh no, it was great. It was funny because I didn't have it wasn't registered on Podmatch because we both use Podmatch and so I actually had you scheduled for a later date.
Oh, you did?
No, well, no, not on
Oh,
my regular on my calendar.
yeah.
It had you scheduled for today,
Uh,
but on Podmatch it had you scheduled I think for some time in January. And I'm
well,
like,
maybe
that
I'll
didn't
come back.
line up.
Maybe I'll come back.
Hey, I've had no,
Ses
listen. I've
Session
had
2.
I've had people come on for I've had people come on for repeat episodes.
I'd be honored. I'd be
I
honored
love
to come
repeat
back
guests.
I'd
I
be
love
honored to come back sometime. So,
oh, definitely you're
great.
definitely more than welcome to come back.
All right.
I have no problems having repeat guests on. I love that. I love
Thank
to
you.
get to see where people are at.
Yep.
And so I actually have to go back and reach out to some of my earlier guests that before I even went to
Yeah.
video, when I was just strictly audio. I have
Yeah,
to
that'd
reach
be
out to them.
interesting, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I have to reach out to some of them and have them now that I'm doing video come back and see where they're at and see and have them see the growth in me and see
Awesome.
where I've changed from the first time I've interviewed them. So
Awesome.
it's something I'm working on. I'm starting to reach out to some of them
Yeah,
now.
it's inspiring to
No,
listen to you. Very inspiring.
it's a great it's like it was a great learning
Yeah.
lesson for me to have them on and they were like I said they were the first people that I interviewed and like I said this wasn't my profession. This isn't something I do for a
It is
living. So
now. It is
it is
now.
now. Now it is now. But
See, now you're a pro.
when I first started, it was not. It was nothing like that.
Oh, good
I
good
had
for
to
you.
learn. I had to learn how to manage a show and how
Well,
to.
my first day in real estate wasn't pretty either, so I get it. You know,
But
we all start crawling and then,
somewhere, yeah,
find our way up
definitely,
on our feet. So, way to
yeah.
go.
But thank you so much for being a guest. But don't leave
You're
just
welcome.
yet. Let me
Okay,
close out the show and we'll chat a little bit
great.
off the air. But thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone who stopped by. Snowman, what's going on, my brother? How you doing? What's going on to Ben Sutherth III from the BS3 Network? I appreciate you guys for stopping by and leaving a comment. As always, big shout out to my Real Wise fam, Poppy J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady. Love you and appreciate you, baby. Big shout out to my guest, Dr. Eric Holsapple. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless you. Be safe. You know how your boy Wise does it. Peace out.